All right, in today's video, I'm going to be answering a question that I received from one of my clients about how to progress a particular movement when the weight stack jumps by 20 pounds inside of her gym, because it's a common question that I will get because different machines have different increments as far as they jump. So the question that she specifically asked is, today on the cable row, the next weight up is 120 pounds from 100. I can't even get one full range of motion at that weight, so I kept it at 100. How can I progress this? Okay, I'm gonna answer this question 3 different ways. 2 of them will be based on adding some weight to the stack, and then the last suggestion that I'm going to have is actually going to be based on still going heavier, but changing the range of motion. So let's get into it. Option 1, in no particular order, is to find this, I call it an adder weight. If you've got a different name for it, cool. You grab this adder weight. You will typically find this in most gyms that have cable-based machines. That adder weight just pops right on there. And then we're gonna use the pull down as the example here. I'm able to increase that weight just incrementally. Now the question that you may have is, how much does that adder weight weigh? I have seen them anywhere in the gyms that I've been in from as much as from 2.5 pounds to around 5 pounds. I don't know that there's a specific standard across the board. So instead of being super concerned about being able to know the exact amount of weight that it is, what I would recommend is that when you're tracking your workouts, yes, you should be tracking your workouts. I would just note 100 pounds plus the adder weight. If they have multiple of these, then you can progress it with 100 pounds plus 2 adder weights and so on. The second option that I've got for you is using a weight plate. Most gyms will have something like a 2.5 pound. This is a 5 pound. You may even find some that have a 10 pound that is still a smaller footprint. I do not recommend using a larger bumper plate on the machines at all. So what you'll see is that your cable machine is going to have this pin that's right here that lets you select the weight that you're going to use. Some machines will have a freestanding pin like this. Other ones will have a almost like a telephone cord looking thing that connects the pin. If you have no idea what a corded telephone looks like, that's okay, I'm still here for you. What you're going to do is you'll make sure that that pin is in there nice and secure. You'll add the plate. One tip that I have for you is don't push the plate in so that it's super close to the weight stack, because as you're lifting and then lowering the plate, the stack, sometimes that plate can slightly angle, and if it angles in too far, it'll fall in between the stack. So you just have that hanging off here, make sure it's nice and secure, and then you do your movement. So when you do that particular movement, that can also work too. Now the third option would be if you are going ahead and going with the next heaviest option, and if you remember back to my client's question, she specifically said, hey, I can do 100 pounds full range of motion, but when I go to 120, I'm not able to get full range of motion. So what we can do is use that to our advantage by doing what we call lengthened partials. So what this would look like is, first I'll do my reps with the 100 pound stack at the full range of motion, which is where I can get my elbows to retract and full extension up at the top. Now, if I go to a stack that, let's say, is too heavy for me to get full range of motion, what I'm doing is immediately after I've done the reps that I need to, primarily 1 to 2 maybe reps away from failure for the full range of motion, then I'll go to a weight that I know is too heavy for me to get full range of motion, but what I'm gonna do is what's called a lengthened partial, and that is where I am going to spend the time in what we call the lengthened range. And for this particular movement, that means that it's gonna almost look like a quarter rep, like I'm not pulling all the way through, because I'm not. And that is something that you can also use to push a bit heavier. So you're basically doing a lengthened partial where you are still lifting fairly heavy, you're just shortening the range of motion. Now my personal preference, and I can get into this potentially in another video, my personal preference is not to do everything as lengthened partials. I do believe that it's very important to be able to take movements through a full range of motion. So understand that my suggestion for also implementing the lengthened partials is based on first doing what you can through full range of motion and then doing lengthened partials after that, versus we're just going to change all, let's say 10 reps of the pull down to lengthened partials. So hopefully this helps. Again, to recap, 3 options. We've got your adder weight here, we've got the weight plate here, or we go ahead and go with the heavier option and we do lengthened partials where there's a shortened range of motion after we've done our full range of motion. I hope this helps.